I'm disappointed because we could have had it. So I'm disappointed. I'm a little surprised, to be honest with you.
This is a setback, no two ways about it. Obamacare is the law of the land. It's going to remain the law of the land until it's replaced. We did not have quite the votes to replace this law.
Oh, you got to feel sorry for Speaker Paul Ryan right there. His first major effort as Speaker of the House goes down in flames. It was all his plan. Some called it Ryan Care. Others called it Trump Care. Bottom line is Republicans could not get the deal done. Now they have egg on their faces when it comes to repealing and replacing the Affordable Care Act. See, this is what happens when you try to rush through a bill in 17 days. You don't take any amendments. You don't actually have any committee hearings, and you just figure, we got the White House, we got the Senate, we got the House, we can get this thing done. Except there's a little problem called the House Freedom Caucus, and they are so conservative, they don't like anything. So then the problem is they start putting other stuff in. Now they take the moderates off, so the moderates left, and the conservatives weren't happy. And what are we left with? President Trump, who could not get the deal done. And what did he do? He tried to actually blame the Democrats, saying it was their fault.
We had no Democrat support. We had no votes from the Democrats. They weren't going to give us a single vote, so it's a very difficult thing to do. And I think the losers are Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, because now they own Obamacare.
Okay, let me just explain to y'all how this whole thing works, okay? It's very simple. How you gonna blame the Democrats for saying we didn't get any Democrat votes when you made no effort to actually bring the Democrats along in order to see how they could get involved? Remember, there were 150 amendments that the Republicans offered and accepted by the Democrats for the Affordable Care Act, which took place over the period of 13 months. Republicans chose to have no committee hearings, chose to have not allow any amendments, but now Trump is trying to blame the Democrats. But Democrats did say, we tried to tell you. And one of the biggest criticisms of the GOP bill was the sweeping changes to Medicaid, which would result in 24 million more Americans losing health insurance. And those differences brought about heated exchanges like this one.
Tell me about the $800 billion that's being taken out of Medicaid, when in fact all we had to do was leave the taxes that are here for very wealthy people. 400 people are receiving a substantial increase in their taxes.
I know.
They desperately don't need it. Do you not see how that affects Medicaid?
Okay, I'm going to try and bring the tone down here.
I'm not going to bring my tone down. I'm mad as hell about what you all are doing, and I don't have to be nice to nobody when you're being nasty to poor people.
Now, how you gonna tell Congressman L.C. Hastings to bring his tone down? Ooh, white folks love telling black folks about their tone. And he's right. He had a right to be mad as hell. Now, in the tweet Sunday, Trump blamed the right wing of the party known as the Freedom Caucus, who never bought into the plan despite last-minute concessions from the White House. This is what he tweeted. Democrats are smiling in D.C. that the Freedom Caucus, with the help of Club for Growth and Heritage, have saved Planned Parenthood and O-Care. But there's a problem there. But the Heritage Foundation, this was their plan. I know, y'all, it's confusing when you lose. Joining us via FaceTime from New York is Congressman Gregory Meeks, a member of the Congressional Black Caucus, and joining us in studio today, Eugene Craig, CEO of Eugene Craig Organizations. I think he's claiming to be a Republican today. You never know.
Republican every day, baby.
Malia Cohen, member of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. John Burnett, author and strategic advisor to the New York Republican State Committee. They really need his help. And Lauren Victoria Burke, political analyst and writer at NBC Black. Congressman Meeks, I want to start with you. So when you hear Donald Trump whine, complain, and moan that there were no Democratic votes, I mean, you were part of the process. Did the Republicans make any effort to even include Democrats in this?
They did just the opposite. You know, people forgot that they had meetings that they did in secret places. They didn't want other Republicans to know. Remember, Republicans were trying to find out where they were meeting when they were writing the bill. They didn't show it to their own members, less known to Democrats, so that we could see it or ask what we thought, because we've said all along, even when they had us voting over 60 times to repeal the Affordable Care Act, they did not have a plan then. And so now, they did not one time, not one hearing, not one of our amendments were allowed in, as you stated in the beginning, Roland, very different than what President Obama did when he invited, remember, he had these long meetings at the White House. We accepted Republican amendments in an effort to try to do something in a bipartisan way. That was not done here at all. And then, as correctly stated by my friend and brother Alcee Hastings, trying to make this a tax bill where you would take from the poor to give to the rich, that was never something that was brought to us, and it's something that all Americans stood up against. And that's why you heard their voices loudly and clearly against the bill that was proposed by Mr. number 45, the 45th president.
This is what CBC Chairman Congressman Cedric Richmond had to say. There's an old saying that goes, if you break it, you own it. This failure is on Republicans, not on Democrats. Republicans own this. Thankfully, this law didn't pass today because it would have been a disaster for the health of all Americans. Now the Republicans say Trump was like, well, we're going to move on to tax reform. But part of the problem, Congressman Meeks, is that they were expecting tax savings from the health care bill to help pay for their tax reform. It's all kind of tied together.
Well, that's right, because, they tried to pass this as just a health care bill, but it was also a tax bill for their next step, which they thought would reduce the deficit, again, reducing the deficit on the backs of poor people, on the backs of working class people, and so it did not work. So now they're going to have another problem, and we're dealing with the so-called Freedom Caucus. If they are trying to move and have tax cuts that's going to devastate the poorest of the poor and the working class, they will find the same kind of resistance from not only Democrats, but from moderate Republicans and people throughout America who will not allow and will not agree with the billionaires that the 45th president has put into secretary positions throughout this country, who is looking just to help themselves. It just won't work, and it will not happen, and your Democrats will stand solidly together in that regard, and I think that as well as some of the moderate Republicans, and especially on the Senate side, because the bill didn't make it out the House, but it definitely would be dead in the Senate, and further taxes, in that regard, will be non-starters in the Senate also.
On the Sunday morning news show, Senator John McCain addressed this issue as well. This notion of Obamacare is going to explode, according to Trump.
I've already heard that they said, okay, we'll wait till Obamacare collapses and then we'll address it. I'm not sure we should do that to the American people. I would not like to tell X million Americans that their health insurance is in danger. The system is still broken. It still needs to be fixed, and maybe there are areas where we could get agreement with the Democrats. That won't be easy, and it may not happen, but we at least ought to try it.
Last for you, Congressman Meeks, about 30 seconds. What is next? Should Democrats join with Republicans? Because there are some issues with the Affordable Care Act.
Yeah, the question is whether the Republicans will join Democrats. We have always said there's no need in repealing the Affordable Care Act. What we need to do is to adjust it, to fix it together. We've said that from the very beginning, and the Republicans have flat out denied that, saying all that they wanted to do was to repeal the Affordable Care Act. That does not work. If they want to sit down and work together to fix the Affordable Care Act, we can do that collectively. So again, the ball is in their court, but we're not going to destroy and repeal the Affordable Care Act because it will take and destroy 24 million Americans who did not have access to health care that now has health care.
Congressman Gregory Meeks, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
My pleasure. Good being with you, Roland.
Go to my panel here. Lauren, I want to start with you. You were there in the halls of Congress. It was pretty nutty Thursday and Friday.
It was amazing. Basically, what you've got here is what we knew we had in the first place, which is a president that doesn't know how Washington works, and he sort of has ceded power to the Speaker of the House and the Vice President. You would think that that would work because the Vice President, of course, has a lot of experience in Congress. You would think that that would work because his OMB Director, Mick Mulvaney, was just in Congress, and his Health and Human Services Director was just in Congress with the Price. And it didn't work because Paul Ryan wrote this bill. I mean, he basically wrote it in secret. Rand Paul noticed and blew that up, and so did a lot of other conservatives in Congress. And Paul Ryan is doing something different than what this president ran on and was elected on. Donald Trump was not elected on what this bill was about. This bill was a tax cut disguised as a health care bill.
Right.
And so it was a disaster. And I think the politics of Paul Ryan was a disaster, which had been rumored, and it's true.
Malia, look, the reality is you're an elected official. You understand how you must get things through. Whoa, this was just bad.
Yeah, I think it's a fail on many aspects. I think the Republican Party should be focused on building the tent, bringing people in instead of spending so much time and energy trying to exclude. You heard Representative Meeks talking about clandestine meetings. I mean, that is absolutely the wrong way to be making legislation.
John, your party failed here. I mean, failed miserably. This was the first one out the gate. Really? All that complaining and whining, and then, of course, Ryan says on Friday, it's a little hard when you're in power. You got to lead. They've been in power for 4 years.
Well, they all ate some humble pie on Friday, but I will say each presidential term has 1,461 days, so it's still early, and there's still time.
But the first 62 for his have sucked. There was one Republican consultant over the weekend who said that Trump has had the second worst 2 months of any presidency, and the other one, he died.
Well, look. He wrote The Art of the Deal. Now,
stop. John, stop. He did not write The Art of the Deal. That was a ghostwriter who wrote it. Hold on. No, let's correct that.
Anytime you put your name on it.
We need to stick with the facts.
Anytime you put your name on it, you approved it.
Don't be Kellyanne Conway alternative facts. Go ahead.
But in any case, he's going to write The Art of the Comeback, and I think there's a lot of lessons that need to be learned. I agree with both my fellow panelists that part of the issue was execution, and when you look at corporate America. I said part. There's a lot. We got an hour, so we're going to, or a few more minutes. We're going to get into it.
Eugene, help your fellow Black Republican out.
So a couple things. I'll package this thing here. First and foremost, Paul Ryan writing the bill in private is no different than Nancy Pelosi saying that you have to pass the bill to read the bill. Secondly, this bill failed because it should have been done in a two-step. It should have been done in a two-step process. This should have been a very, very clean repeal.
We were told this was a three-step process.
Well, look, I don't agree with this three-step process, but not a two-step process. A very clean repeal, and then a regular order replacement bill formed. I think it's very hypocritical for Democrats to not own this. This is a failure. This is a failure.
187 days.
This is a failure on the backs of Democrats. It was Democrats that passed Obamacare. It's Democrats that are responsible for a third of our counties having only one insurer available. It's Democrats responsible for premiums increasing year over year. It's Democrats responsible for folk having $9,000 deductibles. It's Democrats responsible for having health care insurance but not having health care.
Hold on. And according to the Congressional Budget Office, had this bill passed, premiums would have went up 15 to 20%. Right. Had this bill passed, premiums for the elderly would have gone up to $14,600, and they only made $26,000. So please tell me how this was going to help America.
I have no problem saying that this was a bad bill. I believe that this should have been a very clean repeal.
Care Act, they said by now that there will be 20 million people registered on exchanges. But in any case, I agree that it should have been executed differently in terms of employing free market principles that Republicans tout very often. That should have been the original.
Hold on.
One country that has run their health care system on free market principles.
I got to go to a break. I got to go to a break here. But you're from San Francisco.
Yes.
Hold up, John. Hold up. But you're from San Francisco. Nancy Pelosi showed them how you shepherd a bill through.
You got
to hold up. But I'm sure Paul Ryan would have loved to pass it. Let me go ahead and go to break. A peaceful protest turned deadly. 37-year-old black man was shot and killed by Baton Rouge police. His hands are in the air, and you still get shot by the cops.
Oh my God, please don't tell me he's dead.
We're not gonna let hate define us.
Race is a big part of this.
If truly all lives matter, then all lives need to matter equally.
What we require is action. What we require is accountability. We understand that black lives do matter, and we will keep focused on this issue.
NewsOne Now, every weekday morning at 7 on TV1.